At long last, the air date for Doctor Who's new season, the first to star Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor, has been revealed, together with the circumstances in which the episodes will be made available to viewers. And boy, I'm sure this is going to raise a few eyebrows. So, Doctor Who Season 1 premieres on the 11th of May 2024, just 8 weeks away at the time of recording, 8 weeks tomorrow. It is a Saturday the 11th of May, and that is of course the UK date. If you are watching internationally, then that might be a slightly different date for you depending on where you're based. And also, this isn't just a straightforward premiere as we've seen in the past, because we're not just going to be getting one episode on that date. But let's get into all that stuff now. A simultaneous global premiere date is revealed as the Doctor launches into the Whoniverse on BBC and Disney+. Doctor Who is set to make an explosive return on the 11th of May, as the TARDIS will make its global premiere around the Whoniverse. For those in the UK, for the first time ever, the Doctor will land with 2 episodes premiering on BBC iPlayer at midnight. Before arriving on BBC One later that day, right before the Eurovision Song Contest Grand Final. At the same time, those outside of the UK can watch the Doctor and Ruby on their epic adventures, as the TARDIS is set to land on Disney+, where available. Viewers in the UK will now be able to watch whenever and wherever they choose, with the option to stream at midnight on BBC iPlayer or tune in at prime time on Saturday nights on BBC One. Russell T Davies said, "At last, it's my great delight to unleash a whole new season of the Doctor and Ruby's adventures together. Monsters, chasers, villains, mysteries, and a terrifying secret that's been spanning time and space for decades. Don't miss a second." I'm guessing this terrifying secret that spans decades is possibly a reference to Susan Twist, to her character, but we'll see. The BBC is the exclusive home of Doctor Who in the UK, as it premieres at midnight on May 11th on BBC iPlayer, and will then air on BBC One that evening. Outside of the UK, Doctor Who begins streaming 10th of May at 7 PM Eastern Time on Disney+, where available, giving audiences a simultaneous, global launch. An episode will continue to drop on BBC iPlayer at midnight, followed by a primetime slot on BBC One each week following that. So if I've understood this correctly, it means that the first 2 episodes of the series, 2 out of 8 episodes, will be dropping on the 11th of May. That is episode 1 and The Devil's Chord, episode 2, the Beatles and Jinx Monsoon episode. Episode 3 will drop on the 18th of May, episode 4 on the 25th, episode 5 on the 1st of June, episode 6, the Regency one, on the 8th of June, episode 7 on the 15th of June, and episode 8, the final one, on the 22nd of June. In terms of other things in the Doctor Who universe that premiered on the 11th of May, we have The Weird in Space episode 3, Planet of the Spiders part 2, a couple of episodes of Totally Doctor Who, Nightmare in Silver, and the Name of the Doctor prequel, She Said, He Said. And so yeah, that's the light stuff out of the way. Let's get into the meat of this then, the massive sort of shift in circumstance in terms of how Doctor Who is now being distributed and released. Now, we knew with Disney on board and Disney Plus as the international streaming partner that there was going to be some elements of the show being available at the same time all across the world, wherever you can get Disney Plus, that is, in countries where you can get it. That comes as no surprise, really, and the idea of a kind of simulcast thing, like we had in the past with The Day of the Doctor, and there might have been other instances of that in the past as well in Doctor Who history, I can't quite recall, but that is certainly the main one. It was something like 96 or 7 kind of countries, watching that at once, The Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special. So a similar thing here, that is in itself a fantastic thing. I think a lot of people would agree, especially international fans and viewers, because in the past, they have had to wait, many hours or till the next day in some cases. After an episode has been broadcast in the UK, they've had to wait until the next day to see it, in their own country, on their own streaming service or their own channel or whatever it may be. And then as well, there have been issues with it not being available in the highest quality or that kind of stuff, and international fans just basically, not getting a great sort of deal there. So I think, this now, even though, yes, they have to shell out for a Disney Plus subscription, I think overall this is better for them. And I think, it's an appropriate way for Doctor Who to be distributed, because, this isn't the small show that started out in the 60s. It is now there on an international stage with international fans across all sorts of countries around the world. And so it makes sense that everybody around the world gets to watch new episodes as they release at the same time. I don't think anybody would dispute that. It's been a long time coming, and long may it continue. But what this does mean is that now in the UK, we're getting new episodes not, on a Saturday evening at a civilised time for us, but at midnight. And I'm assuming that's got something to do with the fact that, say if episodes were premiered on a Saturday evening at like 7 p.m. or whatever, I'm not quite sure exactly what time it is in America or Australia or other countries, but it's like the early hours of the morning in some cases. And so I think the idea with this is that it's a more civilized time, worldwide for everybody. I'm sure there are still going to be some countries where it's not ideal, maybe it's a bit too early, a bit too late or whatever, but broadly speaking it's a better arrangement for everybody, though at the cost that now in the UK we're not getting episodes on a Saturday evening, we're getting them at midnight. And on the one hand, that is not something to complain about because we're getting the episodes sooner, but I think it will take some getting used to, some adjusting to, and I can certainly see some people not being too happy about this because it means that in the UK at least, everybody isn't going to be watching it at the same time. Some people are going to be waiting until the premiere on a Saturday evening, but lots of people are going to be watching it either throughout the day or like as soon as it drops at midnight, and that's going to create problems for spoilers and stuff and making social media pretty much unusable for Doctor Who fans on a Saturday. It reminds me a little bit of what they did with Class from memory, the most recent TV spin-off in 2016, where those episodes were only available on iPlayer. There was no broadcast slot, let alone a primetime broadcast slot. Sadly, I think it kind of harmed the show in lots of ways, but there we go. It was an interesting time for BBC Three where they were totally online, and so the episodes would drop, I think, on a Saturday morning, and you could then just watch them at any point after that throughout the day. This is slightly different because we do still have that broadcast slots in the evening, so I can see it being a bit of a weird one. Yes, you're getting the episodes sooner, you can watch it sooner if you are prepared to stay up, past midnight into the early hours to watch your Doctor Who, which I'm sure lots of fans will be. But yeah, it slightly loses some of that kind of communal aspect of everybody sitting down at the same time. Rather ironically, it means that the cost of having the show available at the same time worldwide is that in the UK, we're now going to be watching it at lots of different times because essentially the show is now going to be on a streaming service before TV. It's going to be on BBC iPlayer before BBC One. And I think this actually was probably bound to happen at some point anyway. So, personally speaking, it's not an idea that I am against. It's an idea that will take some getting used to, but I kind of look at this and think, it's 2024, this is kind of what happens these days with stuff like this. At least they're not dropping the whole series in one go on iPlayer. I think that would be a real sort of mistake because the show relies so much on week-to-week discussion and discourse and cliffhangers and stuff, and kind of building tension and discussion and discourse over 8 weeks or however long a series is. So I'm glad they've stuck with that. This is still a controversial change, but slightly less so, I think, and like I say, it's slightly more inevitable and something we shouldn't really get too hung up over. As the press release says as well, we're getting a double bill for the premiere, so episodes 1 and 2 in one go. Episode 1 we don't know much about really. I think it's meant to be set on like a spaceship or something. Episode 2 being the Beatles Jinx Monsoon episode. That again is very reminiscent of how they treated Class, where they had the first episodes of that show presented as a double bill as well, and even Torchwood back in 2006, I'm pretty sure it wasn't on the streaming service but on BBC Three, or whichever channel it was at the time. The first episodes aired back to back, and it's a similar idea with this. Again, you slightly lose some of that kind of week to week thing with this, I think, because you don't get a gap between episodes 1 and 2 that's going to be presented as one thing, as one double bill at the same time. And so that's going to be a funny one with reviews and discussion afterwards. Is episode 1 going to get slightly overshadowed by episode 2 because that's going to be the most recent one and people are focusing on that so much? It's going to be a bit of a weird one, and I think that's a choice that I'm slightly less enamoured by, having this double bill, having the first 2 episodes essentially shown or made available at the same time, in one go. But hey, I guess the show has to adapt, it has to try out new things, and if this is what they think is going to work in today's TV landscape, bring it on. What are your thoughts on all of this? Please do let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you've got to say about the air date, about the midnight thing, and about the double bill thing as well. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new for more stuff like this in the future, especially as season 1 gets closer. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.